Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Things. Today, I have a special guest. Chelsea B, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Chelsea B, and I am a streetwear crochet designer from Chicago.
Nice. Chicago in the building.
Yes.
Okay, city girl.
Well, I would have necessarily declared that, but I am from the city.
The city. Mm.
Yes.
You better rep your set, girl. Okay.
Yes, girl, I rep the South Side, okay, all day, every
And
day.
it's all in your style too. Like,
Thank
oh
you.
my gosh. Literally. Like, how do
Thank
you
you.
guys come up with these kind of things, this kind of stuff? It's incredible. But so let's get into our interview today. I want to know everything about Chelsea, and I want to give you guys some insight on how to become the best version of yourself, to follow your dreams, and to truly embody them. So let's start with her roots. What are your roots in fashion design? How long and when did you realize that was your passion?
Well, I would like to say that I am an artist who fell into fashion. And what I mean by that is that I grew up just artsy. Like I was that kid that was always drawing, painting. Like I didn't necessarily watch cartoons. I would always watch like home improvement or interior decorating, anything art related that was me. But it wasn't until I got into about seventh, eighth grade is when I was like, "Ooh, I like fashion and I like design." And then from there, in high school is when I truly decided to go into like crochet apparel. I think we'll get later into the interview, like how I came into crocheting, things like that. But again, I'm just an artist who really just fell into fashion. I wouldn't say I had any family members that like crochet. I mean, that were fashion designers. But that's just how I got started.
Yes, and having your own collections and everything, taking it to a whole nother level.
Thank you.
So then what are your crochet roots and textile design? Like you mentioned, your family.
hmm Well, again, I didn't grow up learning how to crochet. I actually was taught by a high school teacher. She was actually my homeroom teacher. Her name was Meg McGivney, and in my homeroom, it's a bunch of girls. And she just thought, hey, all the girls would love to crochet, but I was one of those ones that really fell in love with it. It just turned into this meditative process that I enjoy outside of me running track and cross country and doing those extracurricular sports. Crocheting became that thing for me along with my exercise and athletics. But it wasn't until I was a senior in college that I found out that my great grandmother, Pauline Winters, rest her soul, she crocheted. I never got a chance to meet her, but I later found out that she actually did. And I'm grateful to God that my aunt gifted me one of her blankets before she had passed away, and I cherish that. It's actually the blanket is actually in the Nike ad, and I feel like that would be a cool hit towards my history and how I uh what I do now. Yeah, and nobody else in my family crochets besides me and her. So that's sort of my roots.
That is amazing. It's in your blood and it was just around you at you said this was high school, your high school homeroom teacher?
Yeah, high school. She called me in 2014. That's when I actually
Come
started.
on.
And I didn't officially start my brand or business until like 2016, 2 years later. But really taking it serious and really putting all my all in my brand
Yes.
this past year. But yeah, 2014 is when I started, discovered 5 years after that my great grandmother crocheted, and then from there I think that's what motivated me. Like, girl, keep going. Like, you got,
Yes.
maybe your
I
great
love
grandmother
that.
lived it through you.
So then what is your primary education as a fashion designer?
Well, well, let's just start off with college. So, um, I studied at the Savannah College of Art and Design, where I received my BFA in surface design and textiles with a minor in fashion. Before SCAD, I had no formal training in sewing. I did again learn how to crochet in high school, but as far as textiles, fiber arts, I had not known anything about that at all until I got to SCAD and discovered the surface design and textile major. We call it fibers for short. But that was really it. I didn't know nothing about it until I got there, and they kind of, taught me everything that I know besides
That
crocheting.
is so awesome. So then once you graduated, what motivated you to go to Nike school? I remember when I met you, and this was when you had your first show. I think it was at your church, or was it a funeral home? It was
I'm
somewhere.
trying, girl. We're not even gonna talk about that venue, girl. I would never what is it? I would say 0 out of 10. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Would not recommend that place.
My nana was right around there though, and she was like, "If you need any help, just let me know." Like I was like, "I got you." That's what made
Girl,
that day so special because, like,
girl, a mess. Just kidding.
But that's when I met you, and you had your first whole entire line, and a lot of
Mm,
your pieces, didn't you design some of them at SCAD? This was
yes,
after
yes.
you graduated.
Yeah, so the fashion show, I feel like I had worked on it for over the course of that senior year. Some of the pieces were pieces that I had included in my senior portfolio. But the collection was a total of 52 looks, and that we not even get to the details of the pieces, but it was a total of 52 looks. I think I had about 23, 24 models. Yeah, and that was just like my first enter into the world as like a solo designer, but also well, it was a designer artist, but also I just wanted to show my family and friends what I had worked so hard to create and develop, just being a scat, because I'm from Chicago. I literally left Chicago to go and fight for this dream and achieve this goal. And I wasn't fortunate enough to fly back home all the time. So that moment was, hey y'all, I'm back. I want to show you guys what I've worked so hard for, and hopefully you believe in what I'm doing, like I do. And I was able to show younger artists or people who wasn't into art, like, hey, you can do this. Like, this is something that Chicago was not privy to, or that I wasn't privy to growing up in Chicago. And I just wanted to show people, like, you can pursue art. This is what I've learned. And I hope that I inspire you with this show. So that's what that was.
That is amazing, and you can feel the love in that space. It was so packed, you guys. It was hot, it was lit, I felt like I was in a movie for real. I had a great time, and I was like, "Oh my
Oh,
god, she's so cool." Like, you,
thank
like,
you.
did your dress too, you, like, tailored it to fit you perfectly. It was literally like a dream, for real.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you had a
Incredible.
great time. Even though feel like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
That's what makes it so awesome.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, so then let's get into Nike school.
Yes,
What
yes.
motivated you to go to Nike school? And just how did you find out about Nike school? And what year?
Well, believe it or not, I people don't know, I have been a part of the Nike family for about 3 years. So I found Nike literally 4 to 5 months after I had graduated, when I was in my job search, just looking for employment after graduating. And yeah, back in 2019 is when I discovered the recreational center. And I said this, if you look at any other like interviews or videos that I've done on my YouTube channel, I talk about how I literally just walked in the door. I was walking down the street, found the recreational center, and I didn't really have a job at that time. So I used the Nike lab and the Nike recreational center as my job. They didn't really know who I was. They just knew I was a girl who was artsy, and they had art supplies and things that I was able to use. And it was a quiet space for me to just create. And so over the course of, I want to say, a year or so, I would just go in. And then one day, I just got familiar with the Nike family and the Nike team over there. And they just became a second family, big brothers, big sisters to me. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and I was kind of bummed because, like, dang, I felt so loved by them, and that's like a comfort place for me. And when the pandemic happened, I didn't really have a place to go after that. It was just like me and my house. But they ended up following up with me. I want to say at the beginning of this year, or I feel like it was the beginning of this year, or at the end of last year, where they had told me about the school, but I didn't really know what it was. And all I knew was like it was something where they were trying to push Virgil's legacy, and I'm all about that. You know what I'm saying? Virgil was always very into creative education, creating resources for just Chicago and people in general. And so when I got the call, I want to say in like February, and they asked me, it was very a surprise interview about it. It was immediate yes, and I feel like I'm rambling, but that's how I came about. What was the second part? Oh, sorry.
You good, you good. You're actually getting into the second part really is
Oh,
just
okay. I was good.
how did Nike School prepare you for your role in fashion, you know?
I wouldn't say necessarily prepared me. I feel like it added to the preparation that I already was developing. And when I say that, SCAD taught me how to definitely be free in my creative process and to own that and be confident in any weird way I wanted to create, any innovative, ingenuitive way. SCAD kind of taught me that. Nike, on the other hand, kind of led me into that business side and creating and collaborating on a bigger scale or a more corporate scale of things. So it kind of taught me, or being in Nike School taught me about that collaborative process that it takes to become a Virgil, become a Kirby, John Raymond, become a Yoon, become a Jerry Lorenzo, you know what I'm saying? Become a Joe Freshgoods. I feel like that is what Nike School led me into, to not necessarily look at being just a small business owner, because now I mean, yes, I'm still a small business owner, but my goal is ultimately to broaden out and do bigger and better things and really hone and build this brand up to where I want it to be outside of just design. You know what I'm saying? So Nike School really taught me about that collaborative process when it comes to not just clothing, but also moving into other lanes as far as retail spaces, seeding things, working with influencers, moving from just a concept to retail and getting stuff universally out there. That's what Nike School taught me. So yeah, it was a combination between SCAD training and Nike School
That's
in my preparation
beautiful.
process. I hope that.
Yes. That totally tied it in perfectly. That is amazing. So then let's go ahead and get into your favorite brands.
Got you.
And about your favorite brands, what qualities in them allow you to see yourself? Your favorite brands, artists, go ahead.
Okay, I actually made a list because I just wanted to, I really wanted to, give people their flowers. The number one, Virgil, I feel like he's very, I mean, you really don't need to explain, but Virgil, we got Yoon of Ambush, we got Kirby John Raymond of Pierre Moss, you got Jerry Lorenzo of Fear of God. Who else did I have on here? Oh, it was just some new artists. Well, even let's move into fine art. We got Nick Cave, Ebony Patterson, and then it's like a few other few artists that I admire now that are youthful. So we have I think his name is, we got Utopia USA, and then I'm trying to think of this other young man. I think he's called the Dark Field Knight. But all in all, those artists in general and their brands, they inspire me so much because they're not necessarily fiber art brands, but in their fashion brands, but they kind of inspire me to be true to myself, and their ingenuity and innovativeness in their brand, right? Those are the things that I really admire. If we go back to Virgil really, he really was one of those people that I admire because his goal was not necessarily just for himself. He created more avenues for other young artists to be seen in this industry, and not just other artists. I want to say artists of color. That's again with Kirby John Raymond with his brand Pierre Moss. I remember one of the key pieces that really made me admire him a lot was his I want to say 2020 spring summer fashion show. And although it was about the fashion, like that whole atmosphere with that choir, you know what I'm saying? Those are the things that I think about in my inspiration when I've grown up. Like I grew up in a church. I admire Sunday's best clothing, you know what I'm saying? And those colors and things like that, and how just as people of color, we are so innovative in our creativity, and we're just us, you know what I'm saying? And I think that is very, I want to say in a way that is becoming very prevalent in my art. And then when I talk about the fine artists, as far as Nick Cave and Ebony Patterson, those were the two main artists when I went into SCAD. If people don't know, SCAD is, and it's like a predominantly white college or a university, and a lot of times I would find myself being one person of color in my class. And I remember when I discovered Nick Cave and his sound suits and Ebony Patterson, those two artists of color really made me believe that I could be, you know, more than just this girl who crochet. Like, I could be influential just as they have been influential to me. I mean, and then we could go into like Don C. Chicago and all of that, but that's just another long conversation to be had. But those people truly inspire me, and all the way around, they continue to be innovative, or they have been innovative in their journey, and use that ingenuity to better their brand. And that is something that has truly inspired me when it comes to my design and where I want to take my brand.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That is amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so then let's get into, tell me about your greatest achievements as a fashion designer. And if you can, please name 5.
Okay, so at the top of that list, it was the I Am music video the I Am music video with artist Baby Tate. I want to say that is number one, because that was like really number one. It was like a birthday gift to myself. It launched, or I created those designs around my birthday, and that's when I had got that call around that time to do that. But number one, it was like my literal break into the industry. It was one of the first big projects I ever been a part of, and I never would imagine that it would have went as far as it did. And we ultimately got onto New York City Times Square, so that was like number one. Number two, I want to say, number two, I want to say it was the collection that I dropped this year at the end of the year with Iridium. And when I say that, that really taught me a lot as far as collaborating with a bigger boutique, with a bigger brand. And I did it primarily by myself. I want to say designing my first shoe with Nike at Nike School, designed my Air Max, the Air Max Notra. I haven't worn a shoe, but I have it here in my office. What else? Also, I don't even know why I didn't say this. Just my official partnership that I did with Nike this year, which was the AF1 40th anniversary. And the reason why that was like one of my biggest accomplishments is because I remember coming into Nike, and my first activation project or activity or event that I was a part of was when Virgil did his AF1 customization workshop that I had got invited to. And that was my interest into really falling in love with sneaker culture and wanting to figure out more innovative ways to connect fiber arts, crochet, and sneakers together. So the idea that I was able to do my own was chef kiss amazing. And then if we're gonna round it off, I would say RuPaul's Drag Race, my opportunity to be able to dress the legendary Monet Exchange, and that being featured on like Paramount TV and VH1. I'm not usually the type of person who talks about a lot of my like accomplishments, but yeah, those I want to say.
Yes, I love that. Shout out to Monet Exchange. I saw that look.
Oh
Okay.
girl, and
That
then I forgot it was
killer.
the Lucky Day.
Oh yeah,
That
Lucky
like
Day.
I literally
Yes.
cried. Like bruh, I cried. And what people don't realize
Mhm.
is a lot of those things I did a lot of those in like 24, 48 hours and had to get them shipped off. So that is why
What?
those are big accomplishments for me.
Wow.
Not because they are featured, they were like, you know, put around the world, but more
Yes.
so because it was a challenge, but also it was a challenge that I accepted and I accomplished it by myself. Hands was moving. But yeah, those are it. I'm not going around with too much.
Wow. That's incredible, Chelsea.
Thank
So then,
you.
how do you stay up to date? How do you keep your ideas fresh in the latest fashion trends, the latest crochet trends? How do you stay replenished?
Well, one of my favorite quotes is very much a vibe, not a trend. So I don't necessarily look at like obviously you have social media, so I see what is trending. However, I don't necessarily take inspiration from those things. Um, I think a lot of people have told me that I've been ahead of the trend. I think I started crocheting before it became a fad or a common thing. But again, I don't necessarily always look at trends. If I do find a trend that I do like, I like to make sure that I do my research because and I think we'll get later into our conversation on this. You want to make sure that it's genuine to you. And you want to make sure that you, especially in the fiber arts community, you want to make sure that you stay true to yourself and do your research because you never want to be seen as copying somebody. Although crochet is a common thing, a lot of people get very sensitive about what they create. But again, I truly find inspiration in, believe it or not, hip hop culture. That is where I find what is on brand in general. Because if you look at the even now it's the NBA players and that whole walking down the tunnel thing, right? What they wearing and such, that's where you could kind of find your trend research. Previous people don't know, real OGs of like design, they would know about WGSN, or maybe they not, but WGSN was one of the things when I first started in design. Is that's where I would find my trend research. But it wasn't necessarily about figuring out what was going to be fashionable. It was more so about what are the new fibers and what are the new stitches, and then in turn or like what would be on brand colors. Again, I'm a colorful person, but those are the things that I find inspiration in to figure out what I want to do next. So it's more so of like stitches and things, and then I use like silhouettes that I've developed myself to create these new things.
I
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
Yes.
Nice. Alrighty. So then let's get into the ethics and the authenticity of crochet and fashion design. Everything nowadays, we can see it all. It's all on TikTok, it's all on Pinterest, it's all on YouTube. Everybody's willing to teach others, everybody's willing to try it or not, you know what I'm saying? But let's get into the ethics part of that. So then what ethics are important for fashion designers?
I don't want to say like I'm gonna speak for myself because I mean I could say what's ethics for fashion designers, but then again everybody is different and they have their own methods. I know for me, one of the ethical things that I stay true to is that I never want to recreate somebody else's design. If I find it inspiring, I try to make sure that I still stay true to myself. Like, yeah, you can find inspiration. Or say you see a designer, they did something on like a hoodie. Oh, they created a hoodie. You can be like, okay, I wanna create a hoodie. However, let me just figure out my own technique and way to do that. But if I'm rounding it back up, I've had clients and people come to me and send me other crocheters designs or something and be like, hey, can you create this for me? And off rip, I always say no. And then I'll reach out to that designer, or whether I know them or not, just because I'm an artist at heart and I don't know what inspired them to create this. I don't know what was their method. You know what I'm saying? I can do it the best way I can, but I'm not them. And so I will send that client or that customer to that person, and I will message that person and could try to connect it so that they are getting their money. You know what I'm saying? And they are getting their respect. So that's one of the things. Also, I want to just say research. Yeah, it's like a, yeah, that's just what ethical to me. I never want to
So
try to.
then so then what qualifies as originality to you? Cuz I and
Yeah.
then what is the process of being original, especially if you saw something that inspired you? How do you round it off to make it something that is yours? Or what do you tell yourself like, okay, this color has to be this other color and I have to do a double crochet for this. Like what is that? What is that? What how does that qualify as original to you?
Mm, um, man, this is I'm the reason why I just want to take my time answering this is because um just in the crochet community, so many different things get recycled. Um, But you know what I will say? Um, I will say the ingenuity and the originality comes with how innovative you are. Sure, you can make a crochet top, but if you switch up a stitch, you change the color, um, it's such a touchy conversation to have. It's just because everything is so recycled. Dang, I wish
And
I
it's
feel like
like
I feel like it's
it's
a big conversation because
mm,
it's a big conversation that I feel like I would need to have like a full on panel discussion with like some of my other fellow mutuals and creatives, just because again it's a touchy subject to have because what was style back then is coming back now. You know what I'm saying? Even down to like crocheting, like bro, crocheting was blankets and people were making like these little Afghans and pants and things like that in different garments. But now it has resurfaced and people use it in their own ways. It's just a hard conversation to have. And I feel like we'll get more we probably gonna dabble into just, how I've had people come to me and say, like, oh, I think that this is somebody else's, or it's a very touchy subject to have. But
so then do you believe that other designers steal from each other intentionally?
yes and
Or
no. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say yes and no. Because I'm thinking about you have those rare few that are admirers, and then well, I want to say no. Let me rephrase that. You have admirers, and then you have people who straight up copy. Um, and then if we're thinking about people who are just getting into crochet, uh, I think that they're probably recreating it to learn, right? So that they can get better. But then if we thinking about bigger brands, you've seen it, Shein, or Fashion Nova, they're not necessarily doing it. They're looking at what is on trend, what quote unquote is on brand, and how they're going to make money. And so that is when you have stealing. I remember if anybody who was an OG crocheter, they remember Nirvana. Oh my God, I love her work. Loved. She was one of my biggest inspirations going into crochet design because it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to create the things that she was creating. It was more so she made me think, and I'm pretty sure this was a lot of other people. She made us realize that you could be very innovative and you could really create whatever you want with crochet, right? And I feel bad because I remember her creating this butterfly top. I remember this top, and I kid you not, I see so many people create that top now, and that was like maybe 4 years ago when she first was doing this, to step it on the scene with this, and I don't see people credit her. You know what I'm saying? And granted, a lot of people who crochet that top now, they probably never even knew that she did that top. But I remember as an OG crocheter who was in this industry, I remember her doing it, and I remember her doing it, and I thought it was so cool and so innovative, even down to like creating these bandeau tops that she would put flowers and stuff on. I see people do stuff like that now, and I wish that she would get more credit. Maybe she gonna get credit now by hearing me talk about it on this podcast. But I've seen like bigger brands, take her designs. I don't want to get into too many, the names, but I think that they were doing it for money, and I think that the young crocheters and people who are getting into it, they weren't necessarily trying to steal those designs. It was more so, oh, she does something cool, I want to learn how she did it so that I could create my own version. You know what I'm saying? So I say yes and no because it's two different sides. You have people who are learning how to crochet and want to become innovative and want to better their skill, and then you got these corporate vultures, these fast fashion microwavable generation, where they are trying to just make money off of what we do and our creativity. And so yes, they be stealing. They steal, and
Yeah.
also that goes into another conversation of a lot of younger crocheters and new. I don't even say younger because people who are older, they're learning how to crochet too. It's the idea of developing your own aesthetic and style, And a lot of times, I know for me, it took me years, right? It took me at least 4 or 5 years to really get to deciding what is my style, my aesthetic. And a lot of times people forget that in this, being a designer and being an artist and being a designer, I mean being creative, you have to take time out to figure out what it is you like, what is your style, what is going to set you apart from other people, right? And that is what's going on. So that's what happens in the development process, is where people they're going on to YouTube, they're looking at other people's design. You got Pinterest, you got Tumblr, you got Instagram. They're looking at these other designs and they're recreating them to figure out what they like. And if they post it online, people, they get a lot of flack. But I just want people to look at it from the other side, because I know I was there at one point in
Mhm.
time figuring out. So sorry,
I
that was long
totally
quick.
agree. I
That was
totally
long
agree
quick.
though. It
That was
takes
long.
years to like develop your creative style. Like you said, your aesthetic basically, or just even what era you're in right now, you know? It took you years to get to that and to fully embody it. And then who knows what's going to happen 5 years from now, 3 years from now, how that will morph and evolve, you know?
Exactly.
And that is so true. And like you just said, people like they'll just post it, especially if they're learning and stuff right now. I feel like when that happens, they'll get burnout really quick, especially if you just step to the scene and they don't know that it takes years to develop your own swag and to develop your own style. They get burned out, unmotivated, rinse, wash, and repeat. Like, and there's no stable grounding or even finding yourself within your own work,
No, exactly. Like
you know?
it's so oh man, it's just
It's a
it's
lot.
just it's a big conversation to have, because like I remember I used to get so bad at saying I was fast fashion. And the only reason, and that was because I was still figuring out language, right? So again, I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to properly speak about this stuff. And I remember my professors used to tell me, stop saying that. You're not doing anything that's fast fashion. Sure, you have developed your skill enough where you can move fast through this, but stop saying that, because you are dimming down, you know, the quality of yourself when you say that. It wasn't intentional. It was because, you know what I'm saying, I was in this generation, in this culture, I wouldn't even want to say culture, society, where everything is fast fashion and so much can get produced in a factory. And you know,
So
things
then,
that
were you saying that because you want to be mainstream?
I was saying it because
Because it's okay to want to be mainstream. I remember Doja Cat in 2015. She was on Periscope and she was like, "My goal is to be mainstream. My goal is to be mainstream." Boom. What happened in 2020? She's mainstream now.
no, no, it wasn't even that. It was more so of I was identifying fashion with how I can produce as much as I could, right? Because you know, Fashion Nova I think was hyping at that time. And also also I had a bunch of people in my face, you know what I'm saying, wanting to get things that I was creating. And so I had to bust out things so fast. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be mainstream, because the way that people discovered me was a happy accident. Like literally I posted a dress on Facebook and it had went viral. And they're like, oh, I need this dress. I need this dress. And so I got overwhelmed, and I still get sometimes overwhelmed. But I have set boundaries. I got overwhelmed because again, we're going to talk about, you know, just society and how they expect things to just come this fast, you know, with
Yeah.
fashion, and they forget the quality of a person.
It
Yeah,
takes
they just
time. Handmade takes time.
handmade takes so much time. This is not a machine. I am not a machine.
Come
Um,
on.
so yeah, it's a big.
Exactly. And so then let's get into, because you answered all of my questions for that. The
Oh,
ethical segment. You did awesome. Um, so then, let's get into faith and strength and trust. Just like you said, like you were getting overwhelmed.
yeah.
How do you handle that? And let's really get into it. How do you handle criticism from those who feel like, I don't know, an entitlement, or you should already have this dress made for me or whatever,
Mm.
you know?
Number one is it's hmm. Number one. Let's talk. I want to dabble into criticism, and then I'll get into how I sustain my motivation for my craft when criticism and hard times come. So I ain't gonna lie. In the beginning, I would, I would, as creatives, I believe we are, as much as we say we're not sensitive about our art, we are, right? Whether you believe it or not, subconsciously or consciously, you are sensitive about your art, because I think that art in general comes from a genuine, and transparent place. And a lot of times people don't realize, as artists, when you're critiquing us, y'all also in the same sense recognize that this is vulnerable. This is full on vulnerability that we are expressing. You know what I'm saying? And sharing with the world. We could have kept this in a sketchbook, but however, we felt good enough to share with the world. But when it comes to the criticism, or I don't even like to use the word criticism. Well, you do. You have criticism and you have critique. You can tell which one is criticism and critique. But with both of those, I try to, number one, first listen. Number two, I try to now, with a lot of growth, set a boundary. If it's something that I want to talk about, then if it's something that I feel comfortable enough to talk about, then cool. But if I'm not, I'm gonna state that straight in the beginning. Like, I hear what you're saying. However, I am not comfortable in this moment. Would it be possible if we can discuss this at another time? Because I'm not in an emotional place to accept what you're saying right now in this moment. And I think that's a very respectful thing to say. And if somebody doesn't respect it, so be it. Move on. You know what I'm saying? And call it a day. And if they don't respect that, then that just shows their character. And then also we can get into just the business side, right? I've had difficult customers, and I know people hate to say this, but sometimes I move with, especially being a entrepreneur of color, right? Black business a lot of times get scrutinized a lot harder than other brands or small businesses. So a lot of times I have let the customer be right, and I've refunded. And it's just me. I'm very, very transparent. I've refunded money. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm thinking about my people behind me, and I don't want to leave a bad taste in this person's mouth that will ultimately not have somebody else miss out on their blessing because of my business. Whether they come back to me or not, I'm thinking about, hey, they go to another black crochet brand, and because they had a bad experience with me, they don't want to go and deal with that brand before. So a lot of times I have let the customer be right and been like, I apologize that you weren't satisfied with what I have done. And so hopefully we work together again. If not, I thank you for giving me this feedback, and I will keep it in mind. And also I would say that, again, it goes back to what I stated before. I don't like to recreate other people's designs, especially if it's something that's not along with my aesthetic and key. That's why I said a lot of designers or crocheters, they have not developed their aesthetic, so they fall into a place of, I'm going to create everything that somebody told me, somebody is reaching out to me to create, because I just want to make the money and I want people to know that I am capable. And that sometimes is hard because you ain't set a boundary as to what you're going to create and what you're not going to create. And that goes into a lot of burnout. And then you fall into people criticizing you because you don't necessarily create that, but you did it because, yes, I crochet and you saw that I crochet, so let me do that. So yeah, it's just, when criticism come and when these hard things come, you just have to, number one, listen. Number two, take note of it. Because yes, it's hard and it's not going to feel good in that moment, but I guarantee those hard moments, and those critiques or criticism, those have helped me develop into the businesswoman that I am now, and really set those boundaries and identify what my brand is and where we're going to be in the future.
Yes,
Yeah, hope
exactly.
that
So
was that.
then, yes, that was perfect. So then, how do you overcome lack of motivation in your work when you do hit a dry spell, or you're just when you're in a burnout stage, whether that be from designing or just real life in general? How do you work with that?
Number one, I decided to give myself a break. I used to be one that, and I think this is because we don't talk about what it's like being a black woman, right? Um, We're expected to work, or even person of color, we expect to work hard. We expect to give 110% all the way through. So if I'm sleeping, I shouldn't be sleeping. If I'm resting, I should not be resting. My worth is determined. My worth my worth is equated to how much work I'm putting in and lack of sleep. That was literally the thing that I was telling myself every day throughout college. I'm gonna lose sleep because I got to get this work done. Because if I'm not working, then I'm not seen as high value. I'm not seen as worthy. I cut them conversations with myself out. Okay. I was like, girl, if you're tired, go to bed. Like insomnia, we can't work like that. You know what I'm saying? Also I got a therapist. I did. I got a therapist because, you know, I think that mental health is not always talked about when it comes to being an artist, a creative, an entrepreneur, also being a person of color. A lot of times when you try to talk to your parents or people that in your family, like, look, I'm going through this and I'm feeling depressed, or they be like, that ain't nothing but the devil. You know what I'm saying? That ain't, no, you good. Like, what? You got to get over this. Like, what?
And sometimes
And
when you're talking to family, it's like, no, you need to talk to a fresh face, a fresh energy, so
unbiased.
that and unbiased. They barely know you. Oh my gosh. Keep going, Chelsea. You got it. Keep going.
Girl, no,
It helps.
literally,
Fresh energy
literally,
helps.
it's you need those uh fresh eyes. You need somebody who is outside of you and your family to help you identify, because it's a lot of times, my therapist has helped me realize, like, girl, you're not wrong. Like, you need some rest. Like, you are not a slave. You know what I'm saying? It is okay. But yes, it's definitely taking breaks. It's definitely doing things that's not related to fashion per se or anything to do with crocheting, right? I paint, I write, I'm an avid writer. Like, I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of self check-ins. I have a self-care journal where I write, like, am I feeling at a 1? Am I feeling a 10? Am I feeling a 5? Why am I feeling that 5? You know what I'm saying? And then I write, like, what is something that I did for myself today? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I write in diaries to God. When I don't feel comfortable talking to people or friends or family about what I'm feeling, I listen to music. Music is one of my big things. Although it's a place of inspiration for me, it's also a place of meditation for me. So sometimes I'm just sitting in my room and I'm listening to a playlist. I have a bunch of playlists, but when I'm really feeling unmotivated, I listen to jazz. I have a jazz playlist. I have a self-care playlist with just, I think, some Jill Scott is on there. It's some gospel. It's some neo soul things on there. And then I also have a playlist. I have a gospel playlist as well. But my gospel playlist is not something that I necessarily run to. I run to like a self-care playlist. And then I also have a playlist. It's titled Sad Face. And and let me tell you why. It's because when I'm feeling sad, I go to that playlist because for some reason those songs on there make me feel happy, or they soothe my spirit in the moment. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I listen to those 3 playlists along with, like, writing and journaling. And also I paint. And again, I do things outside of what my normal day-to-day is. I'm crocheting clothing and apparel on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'm always doing that math. And so sometimes, like what I did yesterday, I dyed shoes. Sometimes I'm painting a portrait, because those moments I'm seen as perfect on social media, or universally perfect at this. And so in my downtime, I want to do something that I can be imperfect in, without criticism. I'm not meant to be perfect at it, and it's going to be fun. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not fun doing those things, and I just need to find the fun to help me regroup and be like, okay, now let's get back to doing what we normally do.
Yes, that is right. Keeping your variety open. And I like how you said the sad face playlist.
I do, girl.
That's so funny. I need
Girl,
to
go
listen
ahead.
to it.
Turn
Just
it
so
on
I
my
can, like, ooh, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I can totally relate. So then let's get into some faith. How do you stay grounded in your faith when overthinking clouds your vision?
Ooh, a lot of times I pray, like, and my prayers can be not like the, those normal quote unquote um method of praying. Sometimes I'm like, God, look, today I'm going through it. Like, give me a sign. Again, like I said, I write diaries to God, and then also you can't really see it, but I have like this dry erase board in my office, and I have little quotes on that I write in on there. Like or not even quotes, it's scriptures, like especially Proverbs 31. It's a lot of sermons that I sit down to listen to, aside from like podcasts that I listen to, you know what I'm saying, to kind of get me back on track. And I take a lot of notes. And what I do sometimes is I go back to those notes that I written from those sermons, and notes and things that I wrote to God. And I review them, and then I see what speaks to me, and I put it on my whiteboard. I put them on sticky notes. And sometimes I post those sticky notes around my place, just so that, I'm surrounding myself with things that are positive and remind me that God is still there. Because a lot of times when we are self-sufficient, a lot of times we forget that God is there, right? And we become too self-sufficient on our own will, that we forget that God is omnipresent, and he is there in the deep valleys. And so I have those quotes and I have those scriptures around me, so that it's a physical, tangible way of seeing God left me a note, or God is still with me. You know what I'm saying? God is right here beside me. So yeah, I mean, obvious prayer, but me as somebody who is a visual learner and who needs to see things, I do write these notes. To write these notes and those scriptures around, so that in
What's
those moments.
in So then what's one of the affirmations? Give us like two of them. Because I love this. I love scripture. I love God.
Well,
Tell me.
one of the scriptures is I believe it's Proverbs 4:23, where it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. It's not necessarily an affirmation, but it's a reminder that stay true to yourself. Remember to take care of your heart. Another one is one of my favorites. I actually have it tattooed on my back. It's Songs of Solomon 4:23. And I know that whole book was about marriage and things like that. But oh no, it's 4:7. Sorry, it's Song of Solomon 4:7, and it says, "You are altogether beautiful, my love. There's no flaw in you." And the reason why that resonates so well with me is because I remember growing up, I used to get bullied a lot about my looks, about me being creative. I'm pretty sure every creative has their in the alley story where people was
Yes.
talking about them. People was calling them weird. You
Mm-hmm.
got the school bullying you. You probably ain't have a lot of money. You was scrounging up just for art supplies. Um, and a lot of times you used to think that your imperfections were ugly. You know what I'm saying? And so that scripture right there, it has become one of my affirmations, because even on my worst days, I'm beautiful and I'm worthy. Like, I don't even, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times we think we have to do so much. Again, that overworking yourself to help you to feel deemed as worthy. Honey, no, you worthy because you worthy. You on this earth and you living, and you're beautiful because you are just you. And so that is one of my affirmations. And I literally look at it all the time. I also used to have an app where it have these quotes, and sometimes I would see those quotes, and I would some people have themselves as their lock screen. I don't necessarily do that anymore. Over the past like year or 2 years, I put quotes or things that I desire God for on my lock screen. So I remember at some point, um I was in a very dark space where I over criticized myself. And I remember I just put this simple quote on my lock screen, and it said, "There's nothing wrong with you." And that's what I would put on my lock screen. And then later on I got it tatted, because a lot of times I'm feeling my arm. When I'm getting nervous, I'm always like this. And so it's literally like right here, because when I'm feeling nervous or feeling anxious about who I am, and falling into a place where I'm about to try to dilute myself to appease somebody else, I rub it and I'm like, there is nothing wrong with you. You are okay. So that's that
I
trail
love
into that
that.
scripture.
When did you get that tattoo?
Oh, girl, I think I got this like.
Because I noticed you do that. I be like, Chelsea, are you cold?
Girl, no, I'm not cold. I'm like, I'm rubbing my arm because it's subconscious. It's like a comfort, girl.
That's so cute.
I got
I
this.
like that.
I want to say I got this like a year and some change ago. Yeah, I think I got it
Wow.
like some years and some change ago, and
That's
yeah,
incredible.
I always would keep my phone with me, but I'm like in those moments when, like now, as my social media follower has grown, I get very overly stimulated. So a lot of times my phone goes on do not disturb, and I don't like to have my phone around me. And so with those quotes, I keep them written down because I know we do have digital age, but I like to have those things written. And that was the one way for me to keep that quote and that saying with me and to have that reminder. So yeah, those are my thing.
I love that. And you have 777 tattooed on
Right,
you.
yes, I have 777. I have 444. And the funny thing is,
Yes.
777 came before 444. If nobody knows, seven is God's number. Um, and so it's funny that my name, my mama specifically spelled my name with 7 letters in the first and middle name. Yeah, in my first and middle name. And I was like, wow, this has been with me forever. And then one of my other favorite numbers is 11. And it just so happened that my last name has specifically 11 letters in it. So I was like, wow.
711.
And we could get into numbers. We get into numbers all day. And
We can do that another time because
right,
this
we
a
get it
whole
another
other.
time. But yes, yeah, those combinations.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Yes. And your tattoos look so good. They've
Thank
healed
you, Chris.
super nice and they're crisp. I love
Thank
them.
you. Shout out
Okay.
to my tattoo artist Xavier Zay Tatted on Instagram. He's so dope.
I need to see him.
yes, he's done every single one of my tattoos. I
Even the
actually
cross on your back.
yeah, no, he actually didn't do that one. That one I got in college, and girl, I don't know. I don't even want to tell y'all how much I paid for that doggone thing, but I wanted it and I got it because
It's
yeah,
nice.
that
It's
was
fire.
my favorite thing. Yeah. But yeah,
Hmm.
thank you, thank you.
Yes, always. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Chelsea, the legend, the original. Okay. You're amazing. You remind me of Chicago, just Chicago style, Chicago swag. Like you totally embody it. Period. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate us meeting.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate
Yes,
you having me on here. Hope I didn't talk too much. Hope somebody took something away
it
from
was
this.
good.
But yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Yes.
you, thank
Yes, you educated everybody about everything. And
you.
I'll see you soon. I'll see you later
Yes,
today.
yes, girl. I'll see you later today. We can have a good time.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share to let people know? Any last remark, last quote, or just shoot?
Last quote is one thing that my professor told me, and I've always kept it with me. It's very simple. Never abandon your, well, she said is stop abandoning your projects, but mine is never abandon your project. Sure, take a break from it, but always come back to it. And I'm saying this for the creative. Sure, we probably have other people to listen to this, but I'm saying this to my young creatives. No idea is a bad idea. You can literally do whatever you want. And that's one thing Virgil taught me. He always taught me the sky is not the limit. It's not the limit. And so that just goes with don't abandon your project. No idea is a bad idea. Like literally create. Create. You know what I'm saying? Create fearlessly. Even if you are scared. Do that stuff scared. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. We all fail. Failing is a part of the process to success. And yeah, hope y'all enjoyed this. Be on the lookout for so many things in 2023. I can't really speak on too much, but just continue. I thank those who have been following my journey thus far. And yeah, I just
Yes.
thank you again, Eddie,
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
me.
I truly appreciate you. This was amazing. This was wonderful. And we'll see you soon. And 2023, guys, follow her. Give us your socials and
Um,
TikTok, YouTube.
you can follow me on Instagram at Chelsea B128. That's CHELSEA, the letter B 128. TikTok, Chelsea B, and instead of the regular B, it's BEE11. So Chelsea B11 on TikTok. House of Chelsea B. If you type in me in Google and type Chelsea B crochet designer, literally everything will probably pop up. So yeah, even if you don't get this real quick, just do that. But thank you again, Addie, for having me. Yeah, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Have a blessed one. Bye.
But do I live? Okay.
You're good.